Um, yeah, so we're live. Okay, excellent. Just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Kevin Hadamil. I'll be taking the lead on this session today on Module 3. In the room as well is three lovely ladies. One is also going to use the name as Greg.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Wirch, coming to you live from San Diego, California. Lynn, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lynn Anderson. I'm coming from Rexburg, Idaho.
And I'm Michelle Wahulis. I'm coming from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm going by the name of Greg today.
The reason she's going by the name of Greg is she's under her husband's name, so we've been teasing her for a few minutes here. So our provocative question today is, when and why do I hold back from participating? And when and why do I commit to solving problems by myself?
Okay, and I thought I'd give a little bit of my answer. I hold back from participating when I lack understanding, when I don't feel I have something to contribute, when I feel my participation will be unappreciated, when I'm not engaged, or when I simply lack the time. I may hold back because of fear, uncertainty, or a lack of sense of belonging. Sometimes it's because I've overcommitted to solve problems within other communities of practice.
You know, I see that at times, even for myself, and you know, when I just don't want to participate, not just because I don't have enough time, but I feel like people do take over the conversation like I'm doing now, and then it's all of a sudden you just kind of get disengaged. So I'm going to try not to do that because I want participants and maybe not so much non-participation.
I really like Wenger's quote on page 164 that says, "We not only define ourselves through the practice we engage in, but also the ones we do not." Anyone want to comment on that? Or?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I was thinking about it earlier, that same question, as I wrote the definition down in mine as well on page 164. I find it interesting, even when we look at the top athletes and them not, or choosing to be non-participants by not engaging into the social media or trying to be that standoffish person, or even just walk away from their team. You know, it still sends a big need of participation and non-participation, and identifying, making that their identity.
Right.
I think at the same time, non-participation is not always a bad thing. I know that one of us, I think, had kind of mentioned that when you are first starting a job, when you're a new hire, you might be a non-participant with a trajectory of being a participant eventually. So you kind of come into the group and you kind of learn the ropes, and you do what you need to do in order to become a full participant. It's kind of a learning process and a trajectory.
And I like on Wenger discusses participation and non-participation on page 167. He says that it shapes aspects of our lives, such as how we locate ourselves, what we care about or we don't, what we attempt to know versus what we ignore, with whom we seek connections or whom we avoid, how we engage our energies, and how we attempt to steer our trajectory.
And I agree with that. I think often we make participation is a choice a lot of times. So we make the decision of whether or not we're going to participate. Sometimes, just as we talked earlier, we choose not to participate for various reasons. But it is a part of what we do. And on one day we might participate a lot, and on another day we might choose not to participate, and for various reasons. And I think that idea that that Wenger talks about, kind of going back and forth, we locate ourselves in a social landscape, and we choose whether or not we want to participate. I really liked one of Wenger's comments when he said, "We cannot become human by ourselves." And I think about there are times when I choose not to participate because I I'm trying to do this all myself. I'm not trying to include others in my community of practice, and either because I don't have time to get other people involved, or maybe because I think I know the answer. And so I think this idea of participation and non-participation has really caused me to reflect on participation as a choice to include others in decisions that need to be made. And I think as we look at being leaders in our communities of practice, I think that's one thing that we really need to take a look at. Another thing, that was on page 146. This is on page 55. Participation refers to a process of taking part and also the relations with others that reflect this process. It suggests both action and connection.
You know what I was reading earlier today, sorry, I'll just jump in really quick.
Yeah.
With that Lemke read that we were instructed to read in Dr. Jordan's, but it says a human is not a person apart from social interactions within a community. And it talks about timescales less than those in which a sense of identity or habitats of sight of interpretation develop and are used. Why I bring that up is the complexity of when you become, like when you start to form your identity. So I was thinking about a person who's shy. How does that come into play in a working sense? Someone that's shy.
I can definitely speak firsthand to that. I'm incredibly shy, but I'm also in a leadership position, and I feel that I'm learning to grow right now and learning to be a vocal participant. I'm always, I feel like, an active participant in my community of practice, but kind of learning to step outside my shell a little bit and trust my competence in my role as part of my identity and participate in the group.
I also like that he discusses non-participation in a more positive way, and like people holding back from participating when they're new, right? But they're still observing, they're still learning. Where he talked about non-participation can also be a compromise, like respect and involvement in each other's purpose. So he used the example of employees taking a break and asking managers not to interrupt them while those employees are taking a break. So, sort of this idea of this non-participation as a compromise. More in a positive way, rather than refusing to participate.
I think last week Dale did a great job in his explanation of saying why he steps back. Being the new professor in his job, and saying, I don't feel like it's time yet. I'm just still learning, and I'm gaining confidence, and little by little it's coming out. So, and I think Kevin spoke about it too a little bit when he first entered that 4th grade. So those were great examples too.
Another thing that Wenger says is participation can be used as a non-participation can be used as a strategy. And I know as a leader, sometimes I'll come into a meeting and I could just tell everybody what I think and end the meeting quickly.
Right.
But the strategy is that I want to step back and listen to what everyone has to say in the meeting. I want to hear. I want to be able to give them voice and then follow through on, did I understand this correctly, or did I hear what you had to say? But sometimes it really is stepping back and let everyone else have a conversation before I say anything, because a lot of times I feel like people look to the leader to say something, and then and then they won't contribute.
Right. Right.
On that,
Go ahead.
No, please go.
I was just going to say, Lynn, do you find that it's beneficial to kind of summarize at the end to make sure that you are accurately understanding what people are saying and making sure that their input is what they intended it to be?
Yes, I think that's really important. Do others have that? Have you had that experience as well?
I think I do the exact same thing at being a principal. I feel just as what you said. I want to empower them to have that voice. I guess the question I want to bring up to that as well is what happens when kind of going back to that, being that shy person, maybe even on the team, maybe even newer, not willing to take that participation, but is being non-vocal part of being non-participant?
Mm.
Yeah. I think it depends on your body language too. I mean, I think of oftentimes people that are shy, that are in meetings, that may agree or disagree. You can tell by the way, their facial expressions. So I think when people look disengaged, then they're not participating. But when people seem like they're into it, they're just not saying anything. I think there's a difference. I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great call. I find that I will actually get called out in meetings. I don't have a very good poker face, so if I'm being shy, if I'm not vocalizing my participation, I will be asked to participate, to voice my opinion.
Does it help when someone does that?
What was that?
Does it help you when you do get called out on the carpet?
You know what it does, because it allows me to really share what I'm saying and be an active participant. So I appreciate it. I need to learn a little bit more on how to speak up on my own.
I think it's interesting when we look at online learning. So one of my interests is online learning, and we think about discussion boards and what that involves. I think it's interesting because in an online course, when everyone has to participate, whether they're shy or not shy, and there's a certain degree, when you sit in a face-to-face class, you can kind of sit back and virtually not participate. But you might be participating by listening, and I think that was a great call, Kevin. But boy, it's kind of enforced in an online course to participate, different than a face-to-face meeting.
Right. Well, and I have the same thing. I teach large classes of 400. Students do not want to talk because they're afraid. They're afraid what they have to say isn't relevant, or somebody may disagree with them. But if you put them in the online environment, it's like they've had time to sort of think through what they're going to say, and they have the feeling of being anonymous. I think that's it. Even though they're not, that lack of face-to-face contact, that really, I think, helps a lot. So I've had the same.
I know we're about time. We're probably even 11 minutes right now, and I don't want our colleagues to be mad because they have to transcribe all of this and much more. So, on that note, does anyone have any other really important questions or answers that need to be, or comments that want to be stated?
No.
Nope, not I.
All right, then we'll stop our broadcast here, and thank you guys for listening, and we look forward to the module 4.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.